Hello! Welcome to Levels Plus Whenever. Changed the name because the weekly seemed like an oxymoron at this point. So the deal, basically, in case you didn't read the blog post, is right now doing a weekly video shoot is just not working out for me. I don't have the energy or the time. It's getting better in terms of work stuff, but at the same time, I'm definitely needing to not commit to doing something weekly for this. So I've changed the name to Levels Plus Whenever, and I'm going to do them whenever I want. So if I feel like doing 3 a week, I'll do that. If I don't feel like doing any for a couple weeks, we'll do that too. It's just going to make things a lot easier on my mental and emotional stress levels. So what are we going to talk about this time? Well, I gave some hints. We're going to be talking about the Genesis Mini 2 and the Mega Drive Mini 2's full roster, as well as some really cool pickups that I've gotten. So, let's start with the pickups. I first got the Prinny Presents NIS Classics Volume 3 with La Pucelle, Ragnarok, and Rhapsody, A Musical Adventure. This is the Deluxe Edition with embarrassing cover art. Less embarrassing on this side. Yeah, I do wish that NIS didn't do this stuff. I actually got this more for Rhapsody than for La Pucelle, but regardless of that, this Deluxe Edition came with the soundtrack for both, came with a soft cover art book for both, and of course the game itself. Cowabunga, dude! I got the Deluxe Edition of the Cowabunga collection, and this one has all kinds of stuff, and I'm really excited to dive in. Just so you know, this is not for children 12 years or younger. So it comes with the game, of course, but it also comes with a bunch of extra goodies. So there's a cloth map, or a cloth poster of the cover, which is pretty cool. Kevin Eastman, one of the creators, did that. There's a collection of pins, so you got the Turtle Blimp, the Party Wagon, the Technodrome, Kraid, and Shredder. You get acrylic standees of all of the other Ninja Turtles. Raphael. There's Dawn and Mike, and I'm sure Leonardo's around here somewhere. There he is. He's hanging out behind the stand. So I will assemble that and show it to you at the end. There's also what looks like to be Tournament Fighters related cards. So let's go ahead and open that up. See, these are kind of neat. They're holographic. So they show off each turtle individually. This looks like new art, which is pretty cool. And this is specifically for the Super Nintendo version, it looks like. I'll show one more. Here's Armagon. But we're still not done, because it also comes with a thick art book of design documents from all of the games within. Here is Manhattan Project, some of the boss sprites and their concept art. Pretty neat. And then here's some art from Tournament Fighters, basically the art that I just showed you. Cloth. I hope you can see that okay over my face, but here's the cloth poster. Alright, here is the fully assembled acrylic. This is actually the nicest one I have yet seen of these types of figures. It actually looks pretty slick. I will find a home for it somewhere. Finn says hi. Yes, he does. Alright, well that was a fun little diversion. Rhapsody did also have a different cover art for both games, which I like a lot more than the default, and I certainly like it a lot more than the box art that, like I said, really made me question why I bought this game, and it's for Rhapsody. I have heard good things about La Pucelle Tactics, which this is the PSP enhanced port of. So I will give it a try, but if it's just too much in that fan service regard, I will just stop. Because my tolerance for such shenanigans is very low these days. Anyway, let's go ahead and cat transition our way into the main topic. So let's talk about the disparity that I feel exists between the Mega Drive Mini 2 and the Genesis 2 Mini. This is primarily from the revised article I have on my blog, the Mega Drive 2 Mini, Genesis 2 Mini Disparity, which you can find a link to in the description. And while I talk about this stuff, we'll run the two trailers with their full rosters in the background, so you can kind of have a visual of what's going on. So, as I've covered this project, the Mega Drive Mini 2, there's just been one thing that's increasingly clear, and that it's a Japan-focused product. It's been designed, first and foremost, to cater to the hardcore Mega Drive fans in its country of origin. And it's important to remember that the Mega Drive didn't have the sales it had overseas to overtake Nintendo for a brief spell. The Genesis did extremely well here and gave Nintendo a run for their money. It was a similar story in Europe, where Nintendo didn't have that NES foothold like it did in America and Japan. But back in Japan, the Mega Drive was a bit of an underwhelming entry in the 16-bit wars. So when we have that in our minds, it's easier to see that even the original Mega Drive Mini was a passion project to bring together a diverse collection of its most loved titles. But given that Japan didn't have the same degree of success as the system did elsewhere, each region got its own unique Genesis Mini or Mega Drive Mini. So, for example, America has a very different roster of games in comparison to Japan and Europe and other regions of Asia. Following the Mega Drive Mini, Sega's kind of retreated back to being more Japan-focused in general with these types of projects. They had the Game Gear Micro, which was about 4 or 5 different miniature versions of the Game Gear, and none of those were brought to other countries. We also had the Astro City Mini 2 lineup, which both of those have been Japan-focused, but the first did get an extremely limited release through limited run games. And when I say extremely, I mean it sold out in like 10 minutes, and there weren't any more. They couldn't restock it. So, once those projects were done, Sega turned its attention to another mini console, not an arcade cabinet, not Game Gear. Unfortunately, the Sega Saturn and Dreamcast are too technologically advanced, and they ran into a problem of chip shortages due to the pandemic. So, when they were considering what to do, M2, who assisted on the original Mega Drive Mini, had recently cracked the Mega CD in terms of respectable emulation. So, Sega's team decided to revisit the Mega Drive, but instead of having it be the most loved games that had huge fan bases, they decided to go a little eclectic. They decided to do a bunch of games that they weren't able to do for the original one because of licensing, because they were ports from arcades or from other systems, or they just weren't able to get the IP sorted out in time. And they decided to make this this is genuinely a love letter to the dedicated fandom of the system in Japan. It's got like 57 titles, including 7 bonus games, covering a wide swath of Mega CD games and Genesis Mega Drive games that we just missed entirely in the original lineup. Sega's literally swinging for the fences with this particular project, and it's filled to the brim with the eclectic, the unexpected, and the unfortunately forgotten. So, this was announced in June, and about a month later, we got a confirmation that this would also see the Genesis 2 Mini. But it was Sega Japan that announced it, not Sega of America. And that's a critical distinction, because the Genesis 2 Mini is an afterthought of the classic hardware division. It's a proverbial bone being tossed to Western diehard fans of the Genesis in the United States and Europe. Canada still can't seem to order this thing. I haven't heard anything about Australia, other regions of Asia. This is just meant for a very, very limited subset of the hardcore Genesis Mega Drive fans outside of Japan. And I say that because it's got 1/10 of the expected distribution of the original Genesis Mini. All of the systems are coming from Amazon Japan because, like I said, Sega of America, Sega of Europe, they're not doing this. Sega of Japan is. There's no equivalents for other countries or regions. The collection of games was revealed at a snail's pace. There was 2 huge info dumps for the Genesis 2 Mini and the European Mega Drive Mini 2, in contrast to the 5 live streams that Sega of Japan did for the Mega Drive Mini 2. And the entire roster was revealed at the 5th Mega Drive Mini 2 live stream for Japan for the Genesis 2 Mini. So it really just shows that this is a Japanese-focused product. Now, the games are the key thing, and we've seen all of the Mega Drive Mini 2 games coming out in Japan pretty close by this point. I think we've got 2 more bonus games before I switch over the video. Yeah, so there's Space Harrier 2, Genesis 2 Mini. Lineup in contrast while I wrap up everything else. So, Japan has had a variable bounty of weird, wonderful, what the hell type of games that just America in general and Europe have not had. Japan is getting these games exclusively. So, Popful Mail, Magical Taruto-kun, Starblade, Mega Panel, Panel in Action, Ichidant R, Columns 3, Nadia the Secret of Blue Water, Lunar the Silver Star, Lunar Eternal Blue, Mega Wonder Collection, Ai Hari Manana, Gambler Jinko Shunshinha, Togi O King Colossus, Sorcerillion, I always say that wrong, Sangokushi 3, Tenka Fubu Iyutachi no Huko CD, Shin Megami Tensei CD, Star Cruiser, Hono no Tokayuchi Dodge Danpei, Maho no Shoujo Silky Lip, Captain Tsubasa, Party Quiz Mega Q 2022, and Party Quiz Sega Q. In comparison, the Genesis 2 Mini is getting these exclusives: Clay Fighter, Desert Strike, Earthworm Jim 2, Elemental Master, Golden Axe 2, Hellfire, Herzog Sway, Outrunners, Riz Star, Rolling Thunder 2, Shadow Dancer: The Secret of Shinobi, Shining Force 2, Sonic 3D Blast, Streets of Rage 3, Super Hang-On, The Ooze, The Revenge of Shinobi, ToeJam and Earl and Panic on Funkatron, Vector Man 2, Warsong, and Silver Shark. So, the fact that Sega Japan basically let the Genesis 2 mini sit idle following that initial announcement of games for a good month and some change is really the most telling to me, because we were like seeing streams of Mega Drive Mini 2 games with no counteract for the Genesis 2 mini. So we knew about 20 games, 22 I think, when they did the initial announcement. And then we didn't know what the other 33 or so were until they finished the Mega Drive Mini 2 lineup. Probably to not spoil something or get Japanese fans excited about something that's on the American version, like Elemental Master or Herzog's Way or something. It feels like the focus just wasn't on the Genesis 2 mini because of that. So, in that huge list of games I just gave you, we have some of the focus revealed. So, like I said, the Mega Drive Mini 2 tackled some licensed stuff. You don't see that on the Genesis 2 mini, really. There's not, like, X-Men, for example, or Spider-Man, or things like that. But with the Mega Drive Mini 2, we've got quite a few. We have Magical Taruto-kun, Nadia's Secret of Blue Water, Ai Harimanada, Gambler Jinko Shushinha, Captain Tsubasa, and Hanono Dokuyuji Dodge Danpei are all based on an anime or manga license. King Colossus is tied to a popular mangaka, so they had to work out a deal with, I believe, his estate, because I don't remember if he's still alive or not, to bring that game back out. We also have very anime-influenced games, like Lunar and Popful Mail and Silky Lip, Star Cruiser, Mega Panel. Those games all have a very strong visual aesthetic and like FMV with anime cutscenes or very anime focused. We have a lot of RPG strategy exclusives for the Mega Drive Mini 2, which includes titles like Shin Megami Tensei CD, Shin Gankushi 3, Tenka Fubu, and Sorcerillion. And then we just have games that probably just don't jive well in Sega Japan's mind. Like Starblade, for example. Why is that not here? As far as I know, there's not that much text in it based on the footage I've seen. Wonder Mega Collection. It would have been added basically another 5 games to the Genesis 2 Mini, even if Flicky was already on the original. But there's probably a reason why it wasn't included. And then Columns 3. Not getting Columns 3 or Ichidant R and the quiz games basically eliminated the multi-tap purposes that the Mega Drive Mini 2 is priding itself on. Like, you could buy a multi-tap and play those games with 3 to 5 players. But that's entirely gone in the Genesis 2 Mini. There are some good exclusives now. When the initial announcement was revealed, there wasn't really much beyond Rainbow Islands Extra to get excited about. But we now have, like, Herzog's Way, Warsong, Elemental Master, Hellfire, Streets of Rage 3, Shadow Dancer, Revenge of Shinobi, Shining Force 2, Rizstar, ToeJam and Earl and Panic Funkatron, Desert Strike. Those have all generally been well received, have more sterling reputations. Mileage may vary on, like, Clay Fighter, Earthworm Jim 2, Golden Axe 2, and Sewer Shark, but, you know, at least some effort was made. So with those comparisons laid bare, I have to say that while Elemental Master, Streets of Rage 3, and Herzog's Way are like the 3 games that I wish were also on the Mega Drive Mini 2, primarily for Streets of Rage 3 to be Bare Knuckle 3 and not be so cruel, the breadth and range of exclusives for the Mega Drive Mini 2 remain the greater hook for me. I still have my pre-order, I'm not getting rid of it. So many of the games on this just captivate my interest on a scale that the majority of the Genesis 2 Minis lineup cannot. And to be completely blunt, no Lunar and Popful Mail stings so badly. It really does. It would have sold the system to America and Europe to have those games included. But Vic Ireland didn't want to play ball. So this entire ride of the last 2 months, it just hasn't looked as rosy for the Genesis 2 Mini. And especially because it's such a increasingly niche console, I don't know how well it's going to sell. And I think Sega Japan thinks that too, because the Genesis 2 Mini is also available for purchase in Japan. So I just get this sense that they made this product for themselves in their own country, and then realized, wait, there might be people who want to play a second Genesis version, but we can't get all of these same games on here. So let's just give them a bag of titles that we can get them. But yeah, it's definitely due to the level of focus that Okunari and the classic console team at Sega are just giving so much love to the Japanese Mega Drive Mini 2. And the Genesis 2 Mini is playing second fiddle. With awkward importing, limited availability, advertising being much more watered down, and the just distinct absence of some really key games that the Mega Drive 2 is getting. The Mega Drive Mini 2 was the intended and desired product result for this initiative at Sega, with the Genesis 2 Mini is a consolation prize. That's my opinion on this whole situation. And while there's still some things that I wish that Sega could have nailed, the Battlemania games, anything from Konami, the Mega Drive Mini 2 continues to be the one that I want to own. Language barrier and all. So, that's my thoughts on that. Thank you so much for joining me on this much shorter video in contrast to the last couple. Levels plus whenever will do what it says on the tin. It will be whenever I feel like recording something. I suspect I will want to talk about Splatoon 3 very soon, so please look forward to that. Have a wonderful, wonderful set of days until we meet again, friends. And again, I appreciate you tuning in and your understanding while I've tried to figure out what to do with this show. I hope that the name change and just the less pressure will get higher quality videos moving forward that I don't feel so rushed or pressured to do. And I'll just do it when I want to. Take care.